I used to think my husband, David, was a hero because every time his phone rang at 2 a.m. with a work emergency, he never hesitated to leave and help his clients. I would pack his bag, kiss him goodbye, and feel proud of the man I married, never realizing that those emergencies had a name, a face, and two children who called my husband Daddy. My reality didn't just break, it evaporated the moment I saw a photo of our family dog on a stranger's social media page, sitting in a backyard I had never seen, 5 miles away from our front door. He wasn't working late, he was living a parallel life, and I was just the part of his story he kept on a shelf. This isn't just a story of a cheating husband, it's a manual on how I used his own web of lies to trap him and reclaim the life he tried to steal from me. The first seed of doubt wasn't a lipstick stain or a mysterious credit card charge. It was a simple, misplaced grocery receipt for a brand of almond milk that no one in our house even drinks. My name is Sloane, and for 7 years I believed I had the perfect marriage, the kind of partnership where words weren't even necessary because we were so in sync. David was a consultant, or so he said, which explained the sudden trips and the frantic middle-of-the-night calls that he always took in the hallway with the door closed. I respected his privacy, thinking he was handling high-stakes corporate crises, but curiosity gnawed at me when I noticed his car's mileage was increasing much faster than his supposed office commute allowed. One evening, while he was away on a business trip in Chicago, I was scrolling through a local neighborhood app and saw a post about a lost golden retriever. The dog in the photo looked exactly like our dog, Barnaby, right down to the unique white patch on his left ear. But the background of the photo showed a beautiful suburban patio with a child's plastic slide and a woman's shadow stretching across the grass. My heart did a slow, painful somersault because Barnaby was supposed to be at the border while I was working late shifts, yet here he was, looking happy in a yard I didn't recognize. I didn't call David. Instead, I drove to the address tagged in the post, a quiet cul-de-sac only 15 minutes from our house. I sat in my car, lights off, watching the front door of a charming blue house that looked like something out of a magazine. At exactly 6:30 p.m., a silver SUV pulled into the driveway, the same SUV David claimed he had traded in months ago. A woman walked out, laughing, followed by two small children who ran toward the car shouting, "Daddy's home!" My breath hitched as the driver's side door opened and David stepped out, lifting the smallest girl into the air and kissing the woman on the forehead with the same tenderness he gave me every morning. I wasn't watching a mistress, I was watching a father come home to his family. The curiosity that had led me there was instantly replaced by a cold, numbing clarity that my entire life was a carefully constructed lie. If you've ever felt that gut instinct that something was wrong but couldn't prove it, hit the like button and subscribe to see how I dug deeper into his double life. The shock didn't wear off. It settled into my bones like ice as I spent the next week becoming a ghost in my own home, watching David play the role of the doting husband while I knew he was just a lead actor in a two-act play. I started digging into our joint bank accounts, but everything looked normal, which meant he was hiding an entire secondary financial system right under my nose. I found a hidden compartment in his gym bag where he kept a second phone, and when I finally cracked the passcode, our wedding anniversary, the ultimate irony, my world shattered again. The phone was filled with thousands of photos of the other family, spanning back over 5 years, meaning he had started this second life barely 2 years into our marriage. There were photos of him at birthday parties, school plays, and even a hospital photo from when his second daughter was born, all on days when he told me he was stuck in board meetings or flying across the country. But the biggest shock was Sarah. Through her social media, I realized she wasn't some homewrecker. She truly believed he was her only wife. He had told her he was a freelance photographer who traveled for weeks at a time for National Geographic, which explained his absences to her, just as consulting had to me. He was using my salary and my inheritance from my grandmother to pay the mortgage on that blue house, funneling money through a fake investment company he had set up in my name. I realized then that I wasn't just being cheated on, I was being used as the financial engine for his secret life. He had forged my signature on loan documents and used our home as collateral for her lifestyle. The man I loved was a professional predator who had mapped out every lie with the precision of a clockmaker. I sat on our bed, looking at the man sleeping beside me, realizing he was a complete stranger who had spent 5 years calculating how to keep 2 women in the dark while bleeding one of them dry. I didn't scream, and I didn't wake him up. I just realized that if he wanted to live 2 lives, I was going to make sure he ended up with none. The level of deception in this story is insane, and it gets even darker. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss the moment the 2 worlds finally collide. I decided that a quiet divorce wasn't enough for a man who stole 5 years of my life and used me to fund his fraud, so I orchestrated a surprise anniversary party at an high-end restaurant and invited everyone who mattered. I didn't just invite our friends and my parents. I sent a special anonymous invitation to Sarah, telling her that her husband was being honored with a Community Leader Award and that she should bring the children to surprise him. On the night of the event, David walked in, glowing with pride, seeing all our friends gathered in the private dining room. He gave me a kiss and started working the room, the perfect politician, until the doors opened again and Sarah walked in with their 2 daughters. The silence that fell over that room was deafening as David's face went from a healthy tan to a sickly translucent gray. He froze like a deer in headlights as both his wives stood in the center of the room, looking at the same man who had promised both of them forever. I didn't lose my cool. I simply walked up to Sarah, handed her a folder containing all the forged documents and the evidence of the diverted funds, and said, "I think we have the same husband, and I think we both need a new lawyer." The fallout was spectacular. Sarah, who was just as much a victim as I was, joined forces with me. Because David had forged my name on so many documents, he had committed multiple counts of white-collar fraud, and within 48 hours, his business trips were replaced by trips to the precinct. I didn't just get a divorce, I worked with Sarah to ensure that every asset he had left was frozen and redistributed to cover the debts he had racked up in my name. The lesson I learned is that a man who builds his life on lies is building a house of cards, and all it takes is one person with the courage to stop believing the script for the whole thing to come crashing down. I lost a husband, but I gained my freedom and a strange, unexpected bond with a woman who was supposed to be my enemy. David thought he was smart enough to manage 2 families, but he forgot that women talk, and once we do, the emergency is always for the man who thought he could get away with it. I am now living in that blue house. I bought it out of foreclosure after David went to prison, and Barnaby finally has a backyard where he can run without being a secret. Justice isn't always fast, but when it arrives, it's a masterpiece. Comment "shattered" if you think Sloane's revenge was perfect, and subscribe for more stories that prove the truth always comes out. Thanks for watching.